everybody, my name is Ben Valina. Welcome to another awesome episode of Watch Learn Code. Today we're going to be going over the basics of CSS, Cascading Style Sheets. Now this is just the basics, so it's going to give you a quick overview of how to use it, how it changes, how you can use it to change your website, the way it looks and feels, and then from there you can take it upon yourself to dive a little bit deeper and look at all the stuff it can do, because it's endless and you're going to be using it for quite a long time. And in my personal opinion, if you can master HTML and CSS, especially CSS, you're a god at web design and development. So moving on, there's two different types. You can do in-page CSS, or else you can do external style sheet CSS. I go with external style sheet CSS. I'm pretty sure the majority of the web development community goes with external style sheets as well. The only time you would actually have in-page CSS would be if you were going to be having one page, one small page, and you just want to have a few lines of code on there, and you're going to style the page that way. Otherwise, go with an external style sheet. It separates your CSS code from your HTML code and from your PHP and JavaScript, everything like that. It keeps it all in one spot. So, first of all, we have what I have set up here in my environment. I have my HTML page, which you can see over here is just wlc-css.html with my title and then the basic markup. On my desktop, I created a folder and I put that file in the folder. And one nice thing about Sublime is in your projects panel, you can drag folders in there and you can work off of your project. You can see everything within inside your folder in the projects panel. So I'm going to drag over my folder I created, and you can see it says wlc-css, which is the folder, and then my files within the folder. So what I want to do here is quickly show you in-page CSS before I move to an external style sheet and show you how to link an external style sheet. So with CSS, you always, if it's internally inside of a page, you're going to be starting out with your style brackets, your style opening and closing brackets. So you're going to have style opening and closing, and within here is where you're going to write your CSS code. You have different selectors. You have your element selector for HTML elements, stuff like span, body, paragraph, bold, all kinds of stuff like that, article, figure. Then you actually have stuff that you're going to specifically target things with, which is IDs and classes. IDs are unique. You can use them multiple times, but it's frowned upon and it's not best practice. So if you're going to use an ID, use it so it's unique and it's only used one time. Classes, you use it multiple times if you're going to be repeating something. So first of all, what I want to do, I want to change the body color of the page to a red. So in CSS, you start with, we're going to target the body of the whole entire website. We're going to target that, and we're going to say background color, and here's where you can pick your different colors. If you're working with colors in CSS, there's a few different ways. You have your default colors like red, white, black, gray. Those will work. Sometimes they won't work in older browsers. The best thing to do is, like, you can come to W3 Schools and take a look at their color picker and see the different kinds of things. So you have your RGB values, and you can have RGBA, which is your alpha channel, where you can change things to be transparent, and I'll go over that a little bit later. Then you have your hexadecimal codes, and this is what I usually go with when I'm targeting different colors. So right now we're just going to go with a red, and we're going to use the default red. So background color red. I'm going to refresh our page, and you can see the body background color is now red. Awesome, but it's too red and I don't like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to change it to a light gray, and I just happen to know light gray is C2, C2, C2. There, background's gray. So now after that, we're going to put let's put an H1 in there. Within our body, we're going to say this is a CSS demo. Refresh it. It's right there. Awesome. So what I want to do, I want to target this H1. We're going to target the H1 on the page, and we're going to say color, so just the color of the font, and we're going to have it white. Refresh. It's now white. So let's say I wanted to add another H1 and say this is red, and then save it. Oh no, it's white now because we used a global global assignment operator here, and we're going to say H1. Every H1 on the page is now going to be white. So no, we don't want that. So we got to target this one specifically, and make it red. So we're going to come down to the red one, And the way we target these, you can either go ID equals, give it a specific ID. Otherwise, you can say class equals, give it a specific class. Here, we're going to give it a class of red. Let's do red color. And I like to do camel casing. So the first part of the first word is always started with a lowercase letter. The second word, third word, every other word is now started with an uppercase letter. It's easier to determine which two letters together or two words together. So we're going to say red color. So now I'm going to come up here and say, after this H1, I'm going to start a new selector. I'm going to select my class of red color. Opening and closing brackets. Then we're going to say we want this to be color red. Save it, refresh. It is now red. So that's how you can use CSS to select different elements on your page. And this works with images, paragraphs, all kinds of different things. You can assign a class to anything, and you can assign multiple classes too. So if we had red color, the way to assign multiple classes is to put a space in between there. So we could do red color and uppercase. Let's just do upper for uppercase. And then now what we're going to do is come up here and go to upper, and we're going to say text transform uppercase. So now it's red and uppercase. So now any item we wanted to say we want to make this red and uppercase, all we have to do is assign it the class of red color and upper. So if we're going to say P for our paragraph and say this is red uppercase. So we save it, we look at it, it's not, it's black and it's lowercase. So all we have to do, we can just copy and paste, because copy and paste is your friend. That's what you want to do. We're going to assign it that, refresh it. Now it's red and uppercase. Awesome, CSS is sweet. Great stuff. So now you kind of got a gist of the way it looks internally on a page. And I would recommend going and looking at a bunch of CSS documentation to see what you can do out there as far as like background color, padding, border, and we'll get into that later on too. This is just kind of a basics overview on how you can set up your style sheets and what you can do with it. So now what I want to do is I want to link to an external style sheet. So let's say we had H1 color pink, and it's a white background now, color's black, it's not pink. We want to link to a style sheet. So make a new file, new file, save it, and then inside your documentation, what I like to do is I like to make my own CSS folder. So make a new folder inside of your project folder that we have over here. Rename it to CSS. And this is pretty standard across the web design industry. Inside that CSS folder, we're going to name this style.css. And you can name it whatever you want. So now we have a CSS document. And when we give it the extension CSS, the browser knows that this is a CSS document, it's going to read it. But still, if we go back to our web page and we refresh, nothing's changed. Now let's say we want to take our H1 element, we want to give it a color of pink. Now we're going to refresh the document, nothing still is happening because we haven't made that linking connection between the two elements, the two pages. So what we're going to do in the head, we're going to go up here and we're going to type out link. Feel free to pause this and type it out if you need to. What we're doing is we're putting a link between the HTML document and the CSS document. So the relationship, rel, is a relationship, and it's just saying this is the style sheet for this document. The href is going to be your location where you're going to be going to grab it. So we're going to go into the CSS folder, then we do our /, then we're going to say style.css. So it's looking into the CSS folder and then grabbing that document, that specific document, linking to it. Then after it does this, because it's a hierarchy based layout, it starts from the top to the bottom. So it's going to start from the top of your document and read down. So it's going to say, okay, grab this style sheet and start styling stuff. So it says H1 color pink. Now that we have this in there, if we refresh the page, the color is pink. So now you don't have all that CSS code up here. You can just go to your style sheet, start coding. So we got our body, background black. Now the background's black, color's pink. We can take the H1, we can say text align center. It's in the center. So this is how you can start styling stuff for your websites, and we'll get more into this, and we'll do a more advanced CSS video where we're going to do some layouts for the website, floating things, giving borders, border radiuses, but this is just a brief overview on what you can do with CSS and how to set up your website with CSS. What I would avoid doing is doing inline CSS. Now, sometimes you might have to, if it's for one element and it's temporary, but avoid doing stuff like this. So if you're going to style your element, your H1 element here, let's just delete this, and you start by saying within the H1 tag, within the brackets, you say style, which is your inline style here, and you go color pink, and then text transform uppercase, save it. It's pink and it's uppercase and it works, but you have the CSS style right in here. And now if you're going to override it, you might have to use an important tag in your style sheet. It gets messy. Your code can end up being 5 or 6 lines long, and you don't want to do that. It's bad practice. So avoid doing that. Stick with the style sheet externally, internally if you want to. It's all up to you. Yeah, have fun, play with it. Check out all kinds of different CSS guides, and hopefully you learn something. All right, thanks, and next time we'll look at a little bit more advanced stuff, and we'll go over some images and what you can do with images and just using that stuff with basic HTML and CSS. Thanks, and enjoy.